The arena was filled with roaring voices. Thousands of alien spectators had gathered to see blood. Their glowing eyes reflected the fire pits that burned around the massive stone circle. High above, banners of the alien empire waved, marking this as the place of judgment. In the center of the arena stood a human. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, but his back was straight. He looked weak, but his eyes carried a strange calm. He was the last human prisoner, dragged from the dungeons to face execution. Opposite him stood the alien warrior girl. Her armor was shining black with silver lines running across her shoulders. A plasma sword glowed in her hands, casting blue light over her sharp face. She was tall, fierce, and feared by everyone. The crowd loved her, for she had never lost a battle. The alien commanders sat on high thrones, watching with cold expressions. This was no ordinary fight. It was not about survival. It was about a message that humans were weak, and their kind did not deserve to live. The announcer's voice thundered across the arena. Today, the human race ends. Our warrior will deliver the final strike, and the galaxy will remember this moment. The crowd screamed louder. Chanting her name, she stepped forward, her blade raised high. Her eyes burned with hate. To her, this was more than duty, it was personal. She had been told that humans destroyed her family, that they caused her years of pain, and now, standing before her, was the last of them. The human did not move. His lips curved into the faintest smile. His calmness unsettled her. She expected fear, begging, or desperate resistance. Instead, he stood as if he was waiting for something. The crowd grew restless. They wanted blood. "Kill him, kill the human," they shouted. Their voices shook. The arena, dust fell from the ceiling as if the stone itself wanted to witness the end. She raised the sword higher. Her heart beat like thunder. This was the moment she had dreamed of. To erase the last human, to end the pain of her past. She looked into his eyes one last time, searching for weakness, but what she found was different. His eyes did not show fear. They carried truth, a strange weight, a secret she could not understand. She swung the blade down. The light cut through the air like a burning comet. The sound of energy hummed. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for his body to fall. But just as the blade came close, the human spoke. His voice was soft but carried across the entire arena. The words froze her in place. Her sword stopped an inch from his chest. Her breathing grew heavy. The crowd gasped in shock. Nobody had expected this. She stared at him. Her grip on the weapon trembled. "What did you just say?" she whispered. Her voice broke through the silence like glass shattering. The human looked directly into her eyes. His smile faded, but his calmness remained. He repeated the words again, slower this time. Each word cut deeper into her heart than any blade could. The arena, once filled with roaring voices, now fell silent. Even the commanders leaned forward, their faces tight with fear. The alien girl felt her anger shaking, her hatred slipping. The words he had spoken carried a truth she had never known, a truth that could destroy everything she believed in. The sword in her hand felt heavier than ever. Her mind raced. Questions she never asked before suddenly rose inside her. If what he said was true, then her entire life had been built on a lie. Her chest tightened. Her past, her family, her purpose, everything seemed to change in that moment. She could not strike, not yet. She needed answers. The human's voice was calm. "You are not my enemy," he said. "And you never were." The crowd shouted again, demanding blood. But their words felt far away. For the first time in her life, the alien warrior hesitated. The duel had just begun. But destiny had already shifted. The alien warrior girl stood frozen in the arena, her glowing sword still hovering an inch from the human's chest. The crowd screamed in confusion, demanding the strike, but her mind was no longer inside the battle. It was trapped in the echo of his words. "You were not abandoned by humans," he had said. "You were abandoned by your own people." Her hands trembled, her heart raced. She wanted to deny it, to silence him. to end the confusion with one quick strike. Yet she could not move. The certainty in his voice held her like invisible chains. The commanders shifted on their thrones, their alien eyes narrowing. They exchanged sharp glances. They could see her hesitation, and that hesitation was dangerous. The crowd was restless, roaring for blood, but the silence between her and the human was louder than anything. She glared at him. "Lies," she hissed. "Humans killed my family. Humans destroyed everything I had." Her voice cracked, but her grip on the blade weakened. The human tilted his head. His face bore both sadness and understanding. "That is what they told you, because they feared you would learn the truth." He said softly, "Your pain was real. But the story behind it was not." Her chest tightened. The words dug into wounds she thought had healed long ago. Memories flashed before her eyes, the cold nights as a child, the empty halls where she had grown, the endless training to become a weapon of the Empire. She remembered the stories told to her again and again, that humans had betrayed her, that she owed her loyalty to the Empire because they had saved her from extinction. But if that was all a lie, then who was she really? She stepped back slightly, the blade lowering by instinct. The crowd gasped. Some shouted angrily, some in shock and some in fear. The commanders slammed their fists against the armrests of their thrones, one of them shouting, "Finish him! Do not listen to his poison." But her mind was no longer theirs to command. She turned her gaze back to the human, her voice low, shaking. "If what you say is true, prove it." The man slowly reached into the torn fabric of his shirt. The guards readied their weapons, but he moved with calm purpose. His hand emerged holding a small object, a pendant. Its surface shimmered faintly with the same blue energy as her sword. Her eyes widened. The design was alien, but not the Empire's. It was older, deeper. It matched the strange symbol that had always haunted her dreams, the one carved into the back of her childhood training chamber. "How do you have this?" she demanded, her voice breaking into anger and fear at once. The human held the pendant out. "Because it belonged to your real family," he answered. "Not the rulers who use you, not the empire that feeds on your pain, but your bloodline. The one they erased from history." The arena fell deathly silent again. Even the fire pit seemed to burn quieter. The alien girl's hand shook violently now. Her sword, once an extension of her body, felt like a burden. "No," she whispered to herself. "This cannot be true. You're trying to weaken me. You want to live, that's all." The human's eyes burned with sincerity. "If all I wanted was life, I would have begged for mercy," he said, "but instead I gave you the truth, because I know you deserve it more than anyone here." Her breath caught in her throat. She felt the truth in his words. She wanted to fight it, but part of her already knew, deep inside. Something had never fit. The emptiness of her past, the hollow pride of her victories, the constant feeling that she was never truly at home in the Empire. The commanders rose from their seats now. Their booming voices filled the arena. "Enough! Strike him down, or you will share his fate." The crowd erupted into chants again, violent and hungry. But their voices seemed distant to her ears. She no longer heard them. She only heard the beating of her heart, and the whisper of the truth that was now alive inside her. She tightened her grip on the sword, not to strike, but to steady herself. She stepped closer to him, her eyes sharp, her voice fierce. "If you are lying, I will kill you myself." The human nodded, unflinching. "Then seek the truth, warrior, and when you find it, you will know who the real enemy is." The weight of his words struck harder than any blade. The galaxy she thought she knew was cracking apart before her eyes, and for the first time in her life, she was afraid, not of losing, not of death, but of the truth. The alien warrior girl stood motionless, the glowing blade still heavy in her grip. Her eyes were locked on the pendant in the human's hand, a tiny object that carried the weight of galaxies. The crowd's shouts were nothing but noise now, meaningless echoes against the storm that had begun inside her mind. She wanted to scream at him, to demand answers until the silence broke. Instead, she whispered through clenched teeth. "Tell me everything." The human nodded. His voice steady, even though 1,000 alien eyes were burning into him. "Long before this empire rose to power, there was an alliance between our people and yours," he began. "We lived side by side, sharing knowledge, trade, and peace. But the rulers of your world grew fearful. They feared that humans would one day surpass them. So they ended the alliance with fire and betrayal." She flinched. Her heart pounded. "Lies," she hissed, though her voice sounded weaker now. "My masters told me humans brought war, that you killed without mercy, that my family fell because of you." His eyes did not leave hers, calm and unshaken. "That is the story they needed you to believe. They told you humans were monsters, so you would become their weapon. But the truth is far darker." He lifted the pendant higher. Its blue glow reflected in her wide eyes. "This was your mother's," he said. "She was no servant of the Empire. She was a leader of the old order, one who wanted peace between our worlds." Her lips parted slightly. Her throat went dry. She had never known her mother's face, never even heard her name. The Empire had told her that her parents had been killed by humans when she was still a child. But now the human's words cracked that lie apart. "My mother?" she whispered. The word felt heavy, strange, almost forbidden. "Yes," he said gently. "And she was betrayed not by humans, but by those who sit above you now. They feared her vision of unity. They feared her strength. And so they erased her, and they raised you as their weapon instead." The arena seemed to tilt around her. The stone beneath her boots felt unsteady. Her grip on the sword faltered as memory she had buried deep began to surface. The cold eyes of her trainers, the harsh voices commanding her loyalty, the way no one ever spoke of her past, her entire life had been shaped to make her a blade, not a daughter, not a person, just a weapon. The commanders roared from their thrones, their voices echoing like thunder. "Do not listen. He twists words. He pollutes your mind." One of them pointed a clawed finger at the human. "Kill him now, or you will be stripped of your honor." But their words only fueled the storm inside her. For the first time she doubted them. For the first time, their commands felt like chains. She could choose to break. The human stepped closer. Though the guards raised their weapons, his voice carried the weight of both sorrow and hope. "You feel it, don't you? The emptiness they left inside you. The questions you never dared to ask. That is because deep inside, you always knew something was wrong." Her chest tightened. Her heart felt like it would shatter. Every breath burned. She looked at the pendant. Again, that faint glow almost calling to her. It was not just an object. It was a piece of herself she never knew she had lost. "Why would I believe you?" she demanded. Her voice trembled. "Why would a human tell me this truth instead of begging for his life?" The man lowered his hand but did not hide the pendant. "Because my life is nothing compared to what you must know," he said. "If I die, humanity loses nothing. But if you live with the truth, then the Empire loses everything." Her body shook. The weight of his words pressed against her chest. The truth was not just about her. It was about all of them. The entire Empire. The entire galaxy. If what he said was real, then she was not just a soldier. She was a key. The commanders rose to their feet, their voices venomous. "Seize him. Silence his tongue before he poisons her further." Guards began to rush forward, weapons drawn. The crowd screamed with excitement, ready to see blood spill. But before they could reach him, she stepped between them and the human, her sword raised not against him, but against those who dared approach. The entire arena gasped. The air itself seemed to freeze. Her voice rang out, strong despite the storm inside. "No one touches him until I have the truth." The guards halted, their faces pale with fear and confusion. The commanders snarled in fury, but even they hesitated. For the first time, their perfect weapon was no longer theirs to control. She turned her head slowly, her eyes meeting the human's once again. "If you are lying, I will cut you down myself," she said, her voice sharp as steel. "But if you are not, then I will know, and when I know, they will pay. The crowd roared with chaos, some cheering, some raging. The arena was no longer a place of execution. It had become a battlefield of truth. And in that moment, the alien girl realized her life had changed forever. She was no longer just a warrior. She was a daughter of secrets. And her destiny had only begun. The arena trembled with noise. But inside her heart, there was only silence. The alien warrior girl stood with her sword raised. Not against the human, but against the guards who had rushed forward. The crowd could not believe what they were seeing. Their champion, their perfect weapon, was disobeying the Empire. Her breath came heavy. Her eyes locked on the commanders. Sitting high on their thrones for years, their voices had been the only truth she knew. For years, their lies had shaped her life. But now, for the first time, she saw fear in their eyes, and it made her wonder. The commanders leaned forward, their voices sharp with venom. You dare betray your masters? You dare protect the enemy? One slammed his clawed hand against the armrest, his roar echoing like thunder. Strike him down now, or you will be nothing but a traitor. Her hands shook, the sword glowed with violent energy. Its hum filled her ears like a heartbeat. She looked at the human standing behind her, calm even as death surrounded him. His words from before still burned inside her chest. You are not my enemy, he had said, and you never were. She lowered the blade slightly, her voice cracked. As she spoke, if everything I have been told is a lie, then what is left of me? The human's reply was steady. The truth, that is all you need, and once you see it, they will never control you again. The crowd erupted into shouts, some calling her a traitor, others demanding she kill him to prove her loyalty, but she barely heard them. Her mind raced back through her memories, the endless training, the nights she spent alone, the hollow victories in battle that never gave her peace. She realized that her entire life had been built on a stage, every fight designed to make her a hero of their lies. The commanders stood now, their bodies towering. Guards, take her down if she will not obey. One shouted. The soldiers stepped closer, their weapons glowing. The alien girl tightened her grip on the sword. She could end the human's life in a second and return to the safety of the lies she had always known. Or she could defy the Empire and demand the truth, risking everything. She felt as if the entire galaxy balanced on the edge of her decision. Her voice rose above the chaos. No one touches him, she declared. The words cut through the arena like fire through dry wood. The guards froze in confusion. The crowd gasped. The commanders hissed with rage. Her chest heaved. Her voice grew stronger. You told me humans killed my family. You told me they destroyed my bloodline. But you never once let me ask questions. You never once gave me proof. And now, she lifted the sword, pointing it at the thrones. Now I demand answers from you. The air grew heavy. The fire pits roared higher as if the universe itself waited for their reply. The commanders sneered, one of them spitting words like poison. You are nothing without us, child. We gave you strength. We gave you purpose. You exist because we shaped you. Do not forget that. Her eyes burned. Her voice trembled with fury. No, she whispered. You did not shape me. You caged me. You turned me into a weapon because you feared what I truly was. The human stepped closer, his voice low but clear. They fear you because you carry her blood, the blood of your mother, the blood of truth. The pendant in his hand glowed faintly again, as if answering his words. She felt it pulling at her heart, a piece of her she had been missing all her life. The crowd's voices clashed like a storm. Some shouted for her death. Others whispered her name in awe. The ground shook under the weight of their divided cries. The commanders raised their hands, signaling the guards. Seize them both. They roared. The guards hesitated, staring at the warrior they had once idolized. Her sword was still glowing, brighter now, energy sparking across the arena floor. She stood between them and the human, her stance unshakable. At that moment, she understood. There was no going back. The path of obedience had ended. The choice was made. She looked at the human. Her voice sharp as steel. "If I fall for this, then at least I will fall for the truth." The crowd screamed in madness as the first guard dared to step forward. She raised her blade and struck, not at the human, but at the soldiers who once fought beside her. Sparks flew, metal clashed, and chaos erupted inside the great arena. The duel of destiny had turned into a war of truth, and the first blow had just been struck. The arena exploded into chaos. The first guard's body fell, sparks still burning from her strike, and the silence that followed lasted only a breath before the crowd erupted into madness. Shouts of rage clashed with screams of fear. Some cheered her name in awe, others cursed her as a traitor. The fire pits flared as if the entire place had come alive. The alien girl stood tall, her sword glowing brighter than ever. Her heart raced, but her eyes were steady. She had made her choice, and there was no turning back. The human stood behind her, calm even in the storm, his presence like an anchor in the chaos. The commanders roared from their thrones, their voices filled with fury. "Seize her! Kill them both!" Guards surged forward in waves, their weapons drawn. Their boots thundered against the stone floor, shaking the ground. She charged into them, her blade slicing through the air like lightning. Sparks burst as steel clashed with plasma. She moved with deadly precision, every strike fueled by the rage of years of lies. For the first time, her sword was not serving the Empire. It was serving her own will. A guard swung at her from behind, but before the blade could land, the human moved. With nothing but broken chains in his hands, he struck the soldier across the face. The guard stumbled, stunned, and the girl finished him with a clean strike. She glanced at the human, surprised, and for a brief moment, their eyes met, not as enemies, but as allies. More guards rushed in. Surrounding them, the girl spun, her blade a storm of blue light. The human fought beside her, his movements clumsy but filled with determination. He dodged, he struck, he survived. She realized then that he was not weak, he was untrained, but strong in spirit. And in that moment, she felt something she had never felt before: trust. The crowd's chants split in two, half shouted for her death, half shouted her name. The arena, once united under the Empire's control, was fracturing before their eyes. Whispers of rebellion rippled through the seats. As if her defiance had lit a fire in more than just herself, the commanders rose from their thrones, their alien forms glowing with anger. One pointed toward her. "You will pay for this betrayal, child. You were ours. You were never meant to. Think for yourself." Her voice thundered back, strong and unbroken. "I was never yours." She shouted. Her sword slashed down another guard. Her armor burned with sparks and blood, but she did not stop. "You fed me lies, you stole my past, but you will never steal my choice." The human grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, holding it awkwardly. "They're afraid of you," he shouted to her between strikes. "They know you're more than they ever wanted you to be." She felt the truth in his words. Her body moved like fire, faster and sharper than ever, with every strike. She was no longer their weapon, she was her own. The guards fell one by one, and still more came. But no matter how many, she did not falter. The crowd began to shift. Some of the aliens who had once adored her now raised their fists, shouting for her freedom. Others fled in terror. The sound of rebellion grew louder, swelling like a storm about to break. The commanders barked orders separately. "Control the crowd. Silence them." But their voices carried less power now. For the first time, the people were not obeying. The girl and the human fought back to back, their movements clumsy at times but perfectly bound by the will to survive. Sweat poured down her face, her arms ached, but she felt alive. For the first time in her life, her battle had meaning. One commander raised his hand, unleashing a surge of energy toward them. The blast struck the ground, shaking the entire arena. Dust and fire filled the air. The girl was thrown back, but she forced herself to rise. Her sword burned in her grip, its glow brighter than before. Through the smoke, She saw the human struggling to stand, his body bruised, but his eyes never giving up. She rushed to his side, pulling him to his feet. "Stay with me," she said. Her voice carried strength even in the storm. He coughed, blood staining his lips, but he smiled faintly. "I'm not leaving you." Her chest tightened. For years, she had fought alone. For years, she had believed trust was weakness. But now, standing beside him, she realized it was strength. The guards hesitated now, fear creeping into their faces. The rebellion had begun not only in the arena, but in their hearts as well. Some lowered their weapons, uncertain. Some even stepped back. The commanders screamed in fury, "Cowards, obey us!" But their words no longer commanded the same power. The alien girl raised her sword high, sparks swirling around her like fire. Her voice rang out, reaching the crowd, the guards, and even the trembling commanders. "I will not be your weapon anymore. If you want to silence me, then you will have to face me." The crowd erupted. Some screamed in support, some in rage, but the spark had already spread. The rebellion was alive, and for the first time, she and the human stood together, not just as fighters, but as symbols of change. The Empire's control was cracking, and the first flames of freedom had been lit inside the arena. The arena burned with chaos. Smoke rose into the air as fires spread across the stands. The roar of the crowd was no longer a chant of unity, but a storm of confusion and rebellion. The alien girl stood at the center of it all, her glowing blade steady in her hand, the human at her side. The commanders shouted for order, but their voices were lost in the madness. Guards still poured into the arena, yet many hesitated, afraid to strike. The people were no longer blind, and the Empire's grip was beginning to slip. The human leaned close, his voice sharp over the noise. "We cannot stay here. They will not stop sending soldiers. We have to move." She nodded, her eyes still locked on the burning thrones above. "There are tunnels beneath the arena, old passages built for slaves and fighters. They lead to the city below." Without another word, she grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the edge of the circle. The guards tried to block them, but her sword cut through their lines like fire through dry grass. The human fought beside her, every move desperate but fearless. Together, they carved a path to the hidden gate. She pressed her hand against the stone wall. A section of the floor shifted with a grinding sound, revealing a dark passage. Without hesitation, she pulled him inside. The stone door closed behind them, sealing off the roaring chaos above. The sudden silence was overwhelming. The air was thick, damp, and heavy with the smell of earth. Only the faint glow of her sword lit the narrow tunnel, casting shadows that danced across the walls. The human leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Sweat and blood marked his face, but his eyes still carried that strange calm. "You knew about these tunnels?" he asked, his voice low. She nodded. "I trained in the arena since I was a child. I saw the slaves vanish into these halls. They whispered of freedom, but I never believed them. Until now, they walked deeper, their footsteps echoing softly." The tunnel twisted and turned, each corner feeling like the mouth of a predator waiting to swallow them whole. Every sound made her grip her sword tighter. Every shadow felt alive. The human spoke again after a long silence. "You could have killed me. You could have chosen their side. Why didn't you?" Her steps slowed. The question struck her harder than any blade. She looked at him, her voice unsteady. "Because when you spoke, something inside me broke. Something I thought was strength was only a cage. I wanted answers more than victory. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone." He gave her a faint smile despite the pain in his body. "You're not." Her chest tightened at those words. Simple, quiet, but heavier than the walls around them. She had been alone her entire life, surrounded by trainers, commanders, and cheering crowds, yet never truly seen, never truly known. But now, this human, her supposed enemy, looked at her as if she was more than a weapon, more than a blade. The tunnel grew darker as they descended. The sound of dripping water echoed in the distance. She raised her sword higher, its blue glow pushing back the shadows. Suddenly, a noise rattled through the passage, the stomping of boots. Voices shouting orders. The Empire's soldiers were following. Their escape had not gone unnoticed. "We have to move faster," she said, her voice firm. Though fear gnawed at her chest, she grabbed his hand, pulling him into a run. The tunnel shook as energy blasts struck the walls behind them, stones breaking loose and crashing to the ground. The human stumbled but did not fall. His hand gripped hers tightly, refusing to let go. His voice strained but steady. "I told you. I'm not leaving you." Her heart pounded. For years she had been taught that trust was weakness, that bonds made warriors fragile. Yet in this moment, his presence gave her strength she never knew she had. With him beside her, even the darkness of the tunnels felt less suffocating. They reached a fork in the tunnel. She hesitated, her instincts screaming. Left led to the lower city, but heavily patrolled. Right led to the forgotten ruins, a place whispered to be cursed. She looked at the human. "We cannot outrun them on the left," she said, "so we take the shadows." Without waiting for his answer, she pulled him right. The air grew colder, the tunnel walls covered in strange carvings, symbols older than the Empire itself. The glow of her sword reflected against them, and something in her chest stirred. A strange familiarity she could not explain. The human touched one of the carvings as they passed. His eyes widened. These symbols, they matched the pendant. She looked closer, her breath caught. He was right. The same spiral markings, the same flowing shapes. Her hand tightened on the sword. "This is connected to my family," she whispered. "This is where the Empire tried to bury the truth." Behind them, the sound of soldiers drew closer. Their time was running out, but ahead, for the first time, she felt like they were running not into shadows, but into destiny. She looked at him, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. "If we survive this, I will find the truth. I will uncover everything they hid from me." He met her gaze, his voice quiet but filled with fire. "And I will stand with you when you do." In the darkness of the tunnels, surrounded by enemies and hunted by the Empire, they had nothing but each other. Yet in that moment, it was enough. Together, they ran deeper into the shadows, where secrets long buried were waiting to be revealed. Asterisk. The tunnels grew wider as they ran. The air was cold, heavy with dust and whispers of forgotten times. The carvings on the walls glowed faintly under the light of her sword. Symbols so old they seemed alive. The human slowed, his eyes tracing the patterns. "These walls, they tell a story," he said softly. The alien girl turned, her heart pounding. She looked closer, and for the first time she saw what the carvings revealed. They showed figures of her people and humans standing side by side, not as enemies, but as allies. Together they built cities, together they fought against darkness. Her breath caught. It was true. She whispered, "We were never enemies." Her chest ached with anger and sorrow. Years of lies collapsed in her mind like shattered glass. Everything she had fought for, every battle, every victory, was built on a foundation of betrayal. The Empire had stolen her mother, her past, and her purpose. But they could not steal this truth. The human placed the pendant against one of the carvings. A surge of blue light spread across the wall. The stone shifted and cracked, opening into a vast chamber. The air hummed with ancient energy inside. Statues of warriors stood tall, guardians of a forgotten age. At the center of the chamber lay a crystal altar, glowing faintly with the same energy as her sword. She stepped forward, her heart trembling. On the altar rested a second sword, not the Empire's weapon, but one forged in the old times. Its design matched the pendant, its glow brighter and purer than anything she had seen. Her hand reached out, and as her fingers touched the hilt, the weapon hummed like it knew her name. A vision burst into her mind. She saw her mother, a tall, fierce woman with eyes full of fire and kindness. She saw humans standing beside her, fighting against the Empire's rise. She heard her mother's voice, clear as if she stood beside her. "My child, you are not their weapon. You are our hope." Tears filled her eyes. Her grip tightened on the sword. She turned to the human, her voice breaking. "They lied to me. They turned me into their blade. But I was meant to be something else." Before he could answer, the chamber shook. Soldiers flooded through the tunnels, energy blasts lighting the darkness. Behind them, the commanders themselves entered, their forms towering, their voices dripping with hatred. "You cannot escape. You cannot defy us. You belong to us." The alien girl raised a new sword. Its glow illuminated the chamber. Brighter than the fire of their weapons, her voice thundered, "I was never yours." The battle erupted. Guards charged, but her blade moved with power she had never known. Every strike sent waves of energy across the room. The human fought beside her, wielding his stolen weapon with fierce determination. They moved as one, back to back, unstoppable. The commanders unleashed their fury, hurling blasts of energy that shook the walls. Statues shattered, dust filled the air, yet she stood firm. Her sword blazing, her voice cut through the chaos. "You tried to bury the truth, but it has risen again. You tried to break me, but you only made me stronger." The crowd of guards faltered. Many stepped back, some dropped their weapons. Fear spread through their ranks. For the first time, they saw her not as a servant of the Empire, but as its enemy. One commander roared, charging forward with claws raised. She met him head-on. Their clash shook the chamber. Sparks and energy lit the air. With a final strike, her blade cut through his armor, and he fell. The other commanders froze, their faces twisted with shock and rage. The girl stood over his fallen body, her voice steady. "This is not the end. This is the beginning." The soldiers lowered their weapons. Some knelt, some fled. The Empire's grip was breaking. The human stepped beside her, his face bruised but his eyes burning with pride. "You've changed everything," he said. She looked at him, her heart steady. "No," she replied. "We changed everything." She raised the sword high. Its light filled the chamber, pushing away the shadows. In that moment, she was no longer a weapon of the Empire. She was the daughter of truth, the heir of her mother's will, a warrior of destiny. And with the human beside her, she knew the galaxy would never be the same again.